order. Commissioner Carey, would you do the pledge? I'm supposed to call the order after then?
It's always weird.
Okay. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from February? If so, use a motion.
I move to approve the minute.
Second?
All those in, do we have to do all those in favor?
Yes, or Sheila, will be roll call.
Commissioner Carey,
Here.
Commissioner Batterson,
Here.
Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Henderson,
Here.
Commissioner Velasco.
Here, but I'll abstain from minutes because I was absent.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any public comment. So just, last time we were presented with the different committees and most of them, what we kind of talked about was most everybody staying with the same committee. Commissioner Lee, you wanted some time to look those over. Did you decide?
That's good.
It's
good.
fine the way it
That's
is?
it.
Okay. Do I need to read off what those were? And we have to,
We just have to run through the appointments again so we can put them in the record.
okay. For the budget committee, we have Commissioner Henderson and Commissioner Velasco. For Park Development Committee, Commissioner Patterson and Carey. Community Partnership Committee, Patterson and Lee. Play Inc., Velasco. Arts Committee, Carey and Henderson. There's no appointments at this time for the All-American City Committee, as it's on vacation, so to speak. Downtown Pacific Plan, which is a 2-year appointment. We have Velasco, and we were adding Carey as a second.
Alternate.
An alternate.
So whenever I can't go, you...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as chair, we get to make the appointments. So those are appointments, Madam Chair.
I approve those appointments. Okay, we'll move on to, doesn't look like we have any new business. Or old business. And so we'll move on to informational reports. The budget update.
Thank you, Commissioners. So we're going to have Ryan Heath, the new management analyst, kind of run through the expenditure status report, and then we want to talk a little bit about COVID and the impacts of COVID, and talk a little bit about that and how it affects the budget. It should be on.
Oh, it should be. Hello, good afternoon. So currently with 83, or just over 83% of the fiscal year completed, we're about 5% under budget. And a lot of that has to do with the current COVID situation and things of that nature. So that's where we are as of to date. Are there any questions on the budget?
So as you look through your recap sheet, you just want to touch a little bit on COVID and kind of the impact. So for the last 2 months, pretty much, the day before the end of the CPRS conference, when the governor instituted his stay-at-home order, the city has been reeling trying to decide how it's going to manage all this. So there are about 200 employees that are working from home right now in the city. Most of those employees are in general services departments, public works, rec and parks, planning development. So utilities has a few at home. So it's kind of been a new learning situation for everyone. And then to go along with that, we've had just under 100, I believe, employees furloughed. Like it was
Yes, just under 100.
Yeah, that were furloughed. Most of those are limited service, 1,000-hour, our lifeguards. And the bulk of that number is in our department because we have a lot of those 19-hour-a-week employees. We have been somewhat creative, I think, in keeping another large group of them working. They have been going out every day, 7 days a week, I think, or at least 6 days a week, out going into the parks, disinfecting tables, disinfecting playgrounds, try to get to them they try to get to them twice a day, but at least once a day. So they hit all the 28 parks and playgrounds that we have. Some of those, like Prescott has 2 or 3 playgrounds on it, so it takes them a while. The idea was to try and show the public that there's an effort being made to try to keep places clean. We also do remind everyone in visiting the parks that it's their responsibility to maintain social distancing, wash their hands frequently. All our restrooms are open, the restrooms are cleaned also on a daily basis. Make sure that they're stocked with supplies so people can actually wash up if they're there. And I would say it's been pretty successful. I think most of our people have been able to work. Some of them would rather be home getting that extra $600 or whatever their time factors into a week of unemployment. But a lot of them really are glad that they're working and that they want to be working. They don't want to be sitting at home. We've instituted some internal safety procedures. Starting in the office, we've installed the plexiglass barriers. We really reduced our customer visits down to next to nothing. We might get maybe 2 or 3 visitors a day in the office. Since none of our facilities are open, we really don't have any rentals going on. We really don't have any classes going on, so there's no registration. So a lot of the time has been spent in the office just catching up on documentation, on our registration software, those kinds of things. Cleaning files, going through boxes of files that we never have time to get to. So a lot of that has been going on. In the field, the parks personnel have taken the opportunity to focus on regular maintenance because we had that rain during the February timeframe, and so everything in the parks is growing. So they're out there doing their regular maintenance. There's really no relief from that. Park usage is probably, I would say probably average, maybe just slightly above average. We have a lot of people coming out on the weekends using the parks. Based on the reports from the rangers, the parks are being used properly. They're maintaining their social distancing. They're trying to keep their groups oriented around one household, which is one of the requirements, and trying to stay under that number of 10 people out there. Parks did go out, and as did special districts, and they removed all their basketball hoops from all the basketball areas. That was one of the areas we had some concern with public gatherings, and 2 things. People didn't understand the requirement for social distancing, so we did some education there. After that didn't work, after a couple of weeks, then we decided to move forward and remove the backboards from the nets from the backboards on the courts. We also used the municipal code section that allows the department to close fields, actually close any facility, but in this case it was fields. That was the other side. The first few weeks there was a lot of disregard for the social distancing, a lot of soccer games going on, those kinds of things. People just didn't quite get the message. So the Rangers had a bilingual flyer that they used. They went out, they talked to people, did some education. And I think compliance now, from what I see on the weekends, is pretty good. I mean, you still have maybe a group of 5 or 6 family members out there using the park. We've had some good media coverage on people visiting the parks, a lot of positive comments about people using the parks as kind of an escape route from being stuck at home. So from that perspective, I think we're getting a lot of visitors that maybe wouldn't have normally come to their park on a regular basis, but now they are. So, and that's another reason for us to keep up our maintenance efforts there. I think it's been I think the staff has just done an outstanding job scheduling things out there. When you look at the negative sides of things, I think we've had some negative issues come up. Well, let me back up and talk about more positives first. So the rec division has been real active, organizing a lot of videos that are online on the city's website. And it's kind of how-to videos at home, work along with an instructor and, you know, learn some exercises, learn some craft activities you can do at home. The staff has distributed a number of kits to the community with different kinds of supplies in them that they can use. So we try to stay on top of that, still trying to meet the message out there. In the meantime, Dennis and his staff have been challenged with coming up with new programs and services, looking at it and kind of how do we phase this in over time as we move to different phases of restrictions. Do we have programs ready to kind of move into each of those phases of restrictions? And again, they've done a really good job getting ready for that. The negatives, a lot of pushback from the community on a lot of issues that we really don't have a lot of control over. Skate park being the most recent example. We locked the gates, we put up our signs, we let people know. The Rangers did some education of people who were jumping the fence and cutting the fence to get inside. And just got to the point where at one of our, there's a meeting each Tuesday of all county agencies, rec and park agencies. And in one of those conversations, one of the cities said that they had put, or they had heard that another city had put gravel down in their skate park to keep people from skating. I didn't really want to put gravel on our skate park. We said, well, we can do wood chips. We can do something like that. So that was probably quite a while back at Atkinson Park was the first one we did. Probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe. And last week, Parks went ahead and did the park at Bradley Square. And that's really where the resistance kind of came about. We tried to do the public education, and there just was no compliance. And we're not talking about kids. I want to make that really clear that the average user of that park is probably between 18 and 22 years old. And that's the type of, so when the Rangers would make contacts, it's not like them talking to an 8-year-old and their parent or somebody. It's talking to a 22-year-old that just says, hey, I tested, I'm not positive, I don't need this, I don't need that. So it was a lot of turmoil that we really didn't want to get into a situation where the Rangers would have to take an action like either writing a ticket or arresting somebody over something silly like skating in the skate park. So so that was the alternative, and like I said, we've taken some flack for that. Generally, operations though are good. I think one of the things that's been a challenge and that Ryan and Dennis worked on just before this whole thing kind of unraveled was the city budget. So I don't remember the number. Was it 4 million, 5 million? What was the number they projected? $6 million somewhere, right?
The first.
In revenue loss because of COVID. So we were already going into a budget with a reduction of about $250,000. So that we found the money, we worked our way through the budget, we moved some things around and were able to do that. And then about 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the virus, they came back and said, well, okay, we need another $600,000 from you. And that's just our budget, not anybody else's. Again, the staff worked really hard to come up with some alternatives that are included in our presentation to the council. And it was come up with a cut, and by the way, we don't want to lay anybody off. So it was very hard to figure out, that to happen. But Dennis and Ryan worked on a plan, and I think it's something that we'll present to the council. They'll make the ultimate decision as to where those cuts are going to happen. So it's been a challenge. I think staff's worked really hard given the challenge that they had. Everybody's coming to work. We have a few people working from home, but for the most part, I think we're probably about 80%. More.
Yeah, more.
Coming into work every day. So the next step for the city is to start calling employees back from working at home status. That's going to be part of their phase reopening of the city, as it were. And but one of the concerns is where do these employees go? A lot of our office spaces don't allow for social distancing, especially here at City Hall. Everybody's kind of crammed into smaller rooms. So again, our staff is working with the HR department and facilities in trying to figure out where we can set up temporary office space for people. We're about the only department that has empty rooms right now around the city, and so we're trying to see how we can accommodate staff from another department or a whole section of staff moving, into a bigger space where they have some space. So it's, like I said, it's been a challenge. It's been something that we're stepping up and doing. And then we bring Greg in right in the middle of it all, and get him involved in it, and he's jumped right in. The other things that I think we see is life kind of goes on and everything else happens. I mean, we're still having, maintenance issues in our buildings. We're still having cars running into landscaping. We've had that poor young woman that passed away at Atkinson Park. I mean, so life continues with all this other stuff going on, but the staff has just been very resilient in getting things done, so I want to thank them for that. Budget-wise, our budget ended up being just under $9 million.
Yes.
Yeah, so about 8.8 million was our submittal for the budget. So I think we were probably on track to be closer to $9.5, $10 million, somewhere around there. We'd like to sit down with the budget committee and kind of give you an overview of the budget once we get the final draft. We're having a staff meeting tomorrow to kind of go over what's been approved. Fortunately, our capital projects, if you notice, around town building continues. So our capital project lists are proceeding. We're still collecting our fees. Construction projects that are residential, generate a fee for us. So that money is being collected, and we've programmed those into our income for next year. And we'll be moving forward with several projects. We're extremely grateful for the Prop 28 grant that we received for Veterans Memorial Park. That's a $2.2 million grant, I believe, from the state. That will just do a complete makeover there. And I don't know, did we provide anything to the commission on that as far as a layout?
I know that.
Yeah, it's because this plan is not new. We've just dusted it off the shelf that we've had it for a while. We'll send it out to you so you can take a look. But basically, it's a I can't say a complete clean like we've done at Buena Vista or at Russell. It's keeping the mature oak trees that are there. It's replacing the playground. It's putting some walkways. It's addressing the veterans monument that's there. It's creating, eliminating the street between the park and the building and making that more of an activity space, a plaza kind of thing. We're working on those. We're going to be moving into design. Brett just worked with our landscape architect to get a contract going to start working on some specific designs for that project. So it's going to be a very busy year for us, regardless of COVID. I mean, I think these projects are going to move forward. I also would like to have the partnership committee meet with the representatives from the Japanese community who are working on the multicultural center project. We think we've come to, as far as their participation goes, I believe they're on board 100%. Now it's just a matter of refining what that means. We're going to be sending them a couple of draft agreements to look at. So regardless of COVID, everything is still moving ahead. And again, I think it's just going to be a very, very busy year for us. So With that, I can let Brian sit down if he wants. Questions?
I have a question, Chair. For the budget, in terms of like grant-funded programs, because we have objectives and goals, and obviously with the reduction of in-house activities at the youth center or recreation, that they're more virtual, is there any change in like our reporting or our goals that we're having to meet, or are we having to be held at a different standard for those funds?
Hi, Commissioners. Great question. We are working with the state to determine for some of the grant funding, including the vets, what the period's going to look like, if there's going to be an extension. We only have one program that would really be affected, and we actually received a one-year extension a couple of months ago, so that's our tree program. So nothing directly affecting programs right now that we know. We have the Ranch to River program, that includes those Forest Ranch and then the Riverbed project. We're waiting to hear, and most likely there'll be an extension on that as well, but that's in the works. Everyone with the state has been really easy to work with and talk with, and they're a little bit up in the air as well as far as dates go. So as we get moving through this process, I'm sure that they're going to allow for some level of extensions.
Chair? I have another question since it was brought up in the budget portion, and I'm not sure it would come back to this, but I first wondered if there were any written correspondences. We didn't have public comments. We don't have.
Sheila, do we have any written correspondence? No.
No? Okay. Because I did get some feedback from the community regarding the skate park and the negative optics it has for the department. And I was just curious if anybody had submitted any information about that, and if it was maybe considered at the time, because it is such a unique way of addressing an issue, if maybe it could have been coupled with utilities and closing down some streets so that kids who, are still looking for that space could have open space to get their athletic needs met.
Well, I think like I said, the first 2 to 3 weeks, we tried to just do the education, just
Right.
separate, or rather follow the social distancing rules. We didn't say you couldn't be in there, just don't congregate over in the corner, and unfortunately, talking to Casey and his staff, that those people that were causing the problem weren't, I don't know how to put it exactly, but they weren't the little kids, and I think I mentioned that in my comments, but I think the other side of it was, they were the smokers, they were just individuals that just didn't want to comply.
Right.
So it kind of forced us into that. The other option would have been to staff that, and again, that just wasn't a viable opportunity for us, is to actually put somebody there. I don't know, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere else. The good thing about wood chips is it takes a couple of guys in a broom and they can sweep them up and get it open again in a matter of a little bit. I know Brett is also working on an estimate for the repairs. I believe the number that I saw was...
I think the last time I said it's less than $20,000.
Yeah, that's how much damage has been there.
And then I know we've talked in the past about the cameras and that situation, just because that seems to be a park that has a lot of issues anyways with not the youth population. Where are we at with that?
There is a camera there across the street, and it sights that whole area. So it's monitorable.
But perhaps
somebody
something
has to
more
do it.
Visible to folks that are actually there.
We could tell people. I mean, right now it's a police camera. It's not one of ours. So we could certainly identify the fact that it is under camera surveillance. And the good thing is you do get to go back, I think, 60 days into video there. I believe it logs it out for 60 days. So that's something we could definitely do. We could definitely look at adding some signage and things. Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a question too, because I had some people ask me, since we were talking about the Veterans Park, with us taking out the street in between, are we adding parking somewhere, or how we handle it?
Well, the final design isn't done yet, and so we're looking to see how that might be. In the original concept, and now I'm going back several years ago, the concept was that we could open it and close it for parking as we needed it.
I was
You
kind of
know,
wondering.
if there was an evening rental or a large rental, then we could open it up for parking. But the idea was to create that flow from the park to the building when we have like, you know, the Dia de los Muertos or something like that. We want to be able to have flow and not have to step off that curb and then have to step up on the other curb and have that big hump in the middle, you know. So it was all things that we're hoping that we're going to be able to do. We know we're going to have some parking issues. One of the designs if you know now along the park, you diagonal park along the edge of the park, was actually to push that diagonal parking in towards the park a little bit more, getting it off of the street, kind of, and being able to add more spaces running the diagonal length of the park on both sides. Right now, the north side during school times, you know, is pretty much school parking. So, you know, there will still be spaces around there. We'll have to work on it.
Anybody else have any questions?
I don't know if it's better here or later on some of the projects, updates, just questions.
Sure.
The Harvest Glen update, where we're on that. I know we got some pictures. Thank you for that. And then at the last downtown specific meeting, we talked about the Chapel Street development kind of parking, just seeing if we were moving ahead with that or what was happening.
You want to talk Chapel real quick? Sure.
Yeah.
Me okay? Chapel Street is, we're moving forward with that. And so we're actually looking at possibly doing a design build on that project, since we have a short 1-year timeline on that build. And so we're looking at doing a conceptual drawing, completing that conceptual drawing, and then taking that to a design build firm and going through the JOC process and not going out to bid on that project, so that we don't have to go through the design, through the bidding, all of that. We essentially move, you know, through a little bit of design and to construction. And so that's a way for us to expedite that project. So can't do anything with that officially until after July 1, the new fiscal year, and then it's got to be buttoned up by June 30 of the following year. So it's on our radar, and as soon as July 1's here, we're going to be on it. So.
And then the other one was
Harvest Glen?
Harvest Glen. Do you want to go ahead and do Harvest Glen? Mr. Scott is here.
Was that your agenda item and I pushed you up?
You want to sit here?
It didn't work?
There's only one USB on the computers.
Oh, great.
That's why I asked you more. So this is,
Sorry.
you can add it.
See, I moved him up in the agenda. I moved him up in the agenda.
What do I do to get it up there, Dennis?
Didn't pop up?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So we're gonna hit all his reports, so.
Okay, so Harvest Glen and Acoostapache are sort of one and the same. The Acoostapache is just the name of the special benefit zone. Okay, so what we're talking about today, I think I gave a report in January on this, is the, the two areas, the basement and the park. So this is the view of the park site from the corner of Sonia and Western. The park is under construction. So let's go down to the second part, the park portion. Rough and final grading has been completed. Okay, that means everything's ready for building. And then and we'll see more pictures. The basketball court has recently been constructed. It was poured last week. So it's not ready to use. We wouldn't want it for that anyway. It has to cure for a month, and then we'll paint it. Bids have been submitted. We are finalizing the scheduling, and we'll be awarding the bids and setting the schedule for the construction of the bathroom this week. So it's far along in the process. Other behind the scenes things have been done. The park furniture is all concrete, and we've had that manufactured by a local manufacturer. So we have that. We're just waiting that. Several other bids or material supplies have been ordered and are waiting in the wings. Trees for the park and some extra trees for the basin will be have been ordered, and they will be part of the tree grant to try to stretch our budgets there. City staff will plant them, but the grant will pay for them. Oops. So here's a couple pictures. So the left-hand picture is looking rather northward. That's the new basketball court. It's two half courts that face each other. So we've got it's hard to see, but there's a gooseneck up there right now waiting for the backboards, which the backboards will be installed in a month with the painting, but the nets won't go up until all the nets go up in the city. This other view to the right is looking down southward, sort of. You can see Sanchez School behind it. That open pit is actually the area prepped for the play structure that will go in. But there's several steps before we get to that. So it's going along. Sort of related to it, the grassy basin next to it. Last time we talked, it was still under the care of the installer. We have now taken it over, and district crews are actively working on prepping it to, what I'd say a sports quality piece of turf, with the anticipation that come summer there could be play on it. That's about the status. Things will just keep rolling along there. So it took a while to get going, but it's going now.
Scott, are you bringing material in that basin?
Yes, we first salvaged all the sandbag station sand to work on. There's a lot of gopher activity there, but we're bringing in about 200 yards of double mix, so topsoil and compost mixed together to help with leveling and just to improve the turf.
So Scott should be commended for pulling the project together. This is really all being done internally. He's generally our general contractor right now, handling the bids for the contract work, and then also scheduling his staff and working with parks to get our internal labor together to go ahead and do the project. The project was underfunded to begin with, so we had to make all the dollars stretch. And it's been kind of sitting in the wings, for at least the last 8 years. So finally we're moving forward with it, and I think it's going to be a nice project.
To that problem, and we will continue.
I hope that we will be planting the turf by October so that we have a finished product. That's our goals right now. Thank you.
Okay, noteworthy activities?
Any questions on this month's report that went out?
It's just incredible how there's still so much going on.
Yeah.
Okay, director's report.
I think I've pretty much given my report. Just throughout chatting through the agenda.
Okay, Recreation Division report.
You know, Alan's talked a little bit about it, about a lot of the stuff we're doing in-house. Sorry, I should be speaking into a microphone. But this is less than 2 minutes. Just to give you an idea, we put together a little highlight reel. And I don't have any audio, which is just pretty music anyway.
We challenged Dennis to do that. but
Yeah,
he declined.
I got 2 done. Well, I hurt my ankle. Just kidding, just
So
kidding.
you lifted it.
Yeah. Mojave and Solomon are wild burros. May is Water Safety Awareness Month. And of course, a lot of rec leader time has been spent putting about 200 signs in our parks reminding people to social distance. So in addition to doing the videos, obviously it's an important part. We've been really working hard. The first part of this situation was a lot of cleaning. We have a lot of storage and going through and organizing and seeing what we have and getting things ready for a possible childcare situation for those that may need it. Luckily, our partners were able to get that worked out, our community partners. So we're looking now at the cleaning's done. We're still moving forward with the programming, but what else are we working on? And that is getting ready to reopen. Between sports, aquatics, day camp, the youth center, senior programs, and all the other little recreational programs, is the staff are really having to look at planning those in 3 different ways. One is with a 6-foot social distancing, one is with a smaller 3-foot social distancing, and then virtual. So every program plan, from one little swim lesson to a community event like concerts in the park, is taking 3 times as long so they could plan accordingly. We're using safety measures from not only the county phone call that we talked about, Alex talked about earlier, with our colleagues in Santa Barbara and different areas around the county, but our national organizations, including the National Rec and Parks Association, California Parks and Rec Society, as well as those other agencies like USA Swimming, and working on creating these plans to make sure that our community is safe when we do get to open back up. The community orders, the county orders can be a little confusing at sometimes. The one came out last Friday talking about how a pool can be open for 6 people, up to 6 people of one household. So we already got calls about how do I reserve the pool for an hour for my family of 6. So it's been a challenge to make sure that we can communicate well with our public and continue to offer some level of programming in the time being. We really have worked hard on, the youth staff has done an amazing job getting those craft kits out to kids to keep them entertained. We have the Chick-fil-A leadership program who meet weekly on Zoom, putting together activity kits and surprise birthday kits for those kids in foster care right now. And that was funded through Kiwanis and a Chick-fil-A grant. We just did a Mother's Day project, so those kids who can't go out and buy mom a gift, we're able to pick amongst a variety of choices to make mom a project. So the staff have worked really hard in all different aspects to make sure that recreation stays alive and make sure that people are getting out to the parks. It's good for their health, and just continue to move forward as we get ready to open back up, as we turn on that dimmer switch. Please? Absolutely. No, I'm good. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for all the work in the department. It was apparent right away that everybody jumped in with both feet and hit the ground running with the number of programming opportunities that were out there, the videos that came out, that great email that you sent about the bingo going viral across the nation, and especially encouraging people to still get outside and get your exercise, get fresh air, because it's so important for families, individuals to do that. And it's confusing, and I think that when we come out with that message, it's positive for everybody. So I just want to commend all the efforts, and right away, like not missing a step, and please use our parks, and please, be out there. That was important.
I'll pass it on. Thank you. You've all read the articles that being outside is one of the best things we can do for ourselves right now, so that's what our staff is focusing on. You'll see that coming up for the month of May, the Water Safety Awareness Month is a hard thing to do when you don't have a swimming pool. So we've tasked the staff to be creative. We have a new challenge coming out. It's called Fish Out of Water. We want to see your best picture in your swimming gear with your snorkel, doing the most mundane things possible. It's that kind of thing that the staff have been really pushing and being creative and borrowing from other cities and molding to ours, and it's amazing to work with this group. Also nice to have Brett and Ryan here who have taken a big chunk off my plate, so it's been really nice to focus on recreation during this time, and getting back to working in the arts with our committee just last week, so thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Brett, operations?
Yes, so again, glad to be here. Couple of things, for the most part, from what I've seen since I've been here, this is my third week, the operations group is busy making sure that everything's going to be functional by the time that we're ready to reopen. And so the quality of your fields, still making sure that the baseball fields are maintained, making sure that we're taking advantage of people not being on the field so that we can do turf repairs and things like that. The guys are taking advantage of that. And so, in one sense, the projects are they're coming even faster, because now is our opportunity to make repairs that we haven't been able to do for a long time. And, Gabe's staff going into, Miami and redoing the floors and making sure that the janitorial staff is not just doing janitorial work, but also doing janitorial projects and things like that. So I was really glad to see that those things, that initiative was being taken to take advantage of the time period that we're in to be productive and make sure that, when Dennis is ready to program again, we've got, an opportunity to take full advantage of those facilities. So some other things, we're still moving forward with the bathroom repair, the burn down. You'll have to forgive me of the name of the park. It's in the north part of town. Armstrong. So Roy's guys are on that. Alex mentioned the fence repair that we're going to need to do at the skate park. We're looking at a couple of different options and then considering timing of when we should put that in place, so that we don't end up with another fence repair. So looking at some different materials to consider at that site, and how we should go about repairing that. And then as I'm getting familiar with the facilities, forgive me behind me, but as I'm getting familiar with the facilities, I'm seeing things that we might be able to improve, and we've been talking about maybe there's a different way to operate, how we're cleaning bathrooms, and who's responsible for what. And so those are the types of things that I look forward to getting in the weeds on, and just kind of helping these guys with a fresh eye, and maybe I can help streamline some of those services that we're providing. So I don't know if there's anything. CAL FIRE grant, we're still moving forward with, there's still another 75 trees to plant with the CAL FIRE grant. They're expecting to wrap that up in September, something like that. And then we should have even some monies left over to plant some more trees even after that grant is done. Yeah, anything else you think of?
Maybe touch a little bit on development. I know you've been in a couple of meetings with our developer community.
Yeah, so Scott is obviously the resident expert in that, and Scott and I have had a lot of windshield time over the last 2 weeks, getting to know where the developments are happening and how that plays into which parks and our vision for each facility. And so did participate in a meeting on the Quimby Act with a couple of local representatives, reviewed an appraisal and provided some feedback on that. And so was glad to be part of that. I'm excited to see all of the projects that are happening in this community. That's not something that I was used to dealing with in Monterey County, and so I'm really glad to see that the city's moving forward with some of these park developments and projects that we have. It's pretty exciting time, so glad to be in at the ground floor too. So yeah, other than that.
I know Commissioner Carey kind of listened in on the phone call with Lori Tamura and Dan Blau and Brett and our appraiser that we hired. And so you might recall back in 2018, we took an appraisal that the council basically told us to go back out and find a different appraisal. So we did, came back about $300,000 more than our appraisal did. So the developers weren't really happy with that number, and they had a lot of questions. I think our appraiser, who's out of Los Angeles, and Brett actually had some really good comments for them. So they are out. I got a call or an email today from them. They are out. They've secured an appraiser to give us a competitive appraisal. So we're going to see that one. And they asked for 4 weeks to prepare that. So I said that was fine. I didn't want to make them feel that. My ultimate goal is to bring the fee, bring an agreed to fee to the council, so we don't have to wait another year battling appraisals. So the new city attorney, Mr. Watson, is very open to looking at more negotiations in the fees. Right now, the way the city code is set, we're pretty much stuck with what the appraisal says, and there's a formula that you put through the appraisal and it spits out a fee at the end. He's willing to look more at some more negotiation with the developers so that we can get a fee that we feel will cover our costs, and then that they also feel will work into their budget when they're doing a development. So that's a little more flexibility than we've had in the past. The other fee program that's out right now is the AB 1600 fee program. That's administered by Public Works, and they'll be rolling out their new fee structure, I believe, end of the month, I believe, is their plan, their timeline. So we'll be seeing an increase in that fee, probably just a CPI kind of thing, maybe 3 to 6%, somewhere around there. And then for our Quimby fee, our subdivision and lieu fee, it would be, we don't know, somewhere around there. It's about $19.90 right now, Scott. So we're expecting to crest over $2,000. So essentially, we have the AB 1600 fee, which is about $5,000 a residence, more or less $4,800 or something along those lines, plus the $1,900 from Quimby and $185 of residential development tax. Those three fees make up the park fund, and then we're able to work on new development and new playgrounds and those kinds of things. The good thing is that we're able to justify a lot of our expenses on things that would potentially be considered maintenance, because growth continues around the community. So our parks that were built 20 years ago are serving a population that has been, that's new, coming into the community. So that's the nexus for us to continue to use our money to either expand parks, put in more playgrounds, take out playgrounds and put in larger playgrounds, put in restrooms where we don't have them. So it's been a good method for us to improve some of our older parks. And then certainly to complement CDBG, who's helped us immensely over the last 20 years, putting in new facilities and updating facilities. So, and they continue to do that. And this next year of projects, I think we're going to take a rest. I don't know if we'll be turning in an application. Dennis hasn't talked to me yet. But we'll see how that goes. But there are some things out there that we still need to do. Again, I just want to thank the staff They've done a really good job keeping things together, trying to, one of the things that I found out in the phone calls that I've had over the last couple of weeks from people, is people are tired, and it's in there. I can feel it in their voices when they're talking to me, because I'm sure that they're not that type of person normally, but they want to let me know specifically that they have a concern about something, and we are the closest form of government to the people out there, and I think that they feel comfortable telling us, their opinion, good or bad. Usually I get the bad calls, but I think that's something that we need, and I told the staff this yesterday in our phone call, that not only for our residents, but also for our staff, is that we need to be empathetic to their situation. We don't know what's happening in their lives at home. We don't know what's happening in their business. Maybe they're not working anymore. There's so many factors here that we don't know. So we need to be a little more tolerant and maybe a little more patient with people when we're trying to deal with them. I had a call from a lady the other day on the skate park that had probably been in every city department, and she called the city manager and left the message for him, and he called me and he goes, "Oh, this lady seems really upset." And I said, "Yes, she is." And Dennis, did you talk to her? Somebody talked to her. Our front office had to talk with her, and I spoke with her, and I just let her vent, and I said, "Well, I'm sorry, thank you for your call," and she didn't want to hear any of my answers, so that was okay. Just see you later. But I do think, again, we just need to be put on hang out our shingle, our consular shingle on some of the calls that we get, and again, even with some of our staff. So the last thing I wanted to let you know about, so I did have a director's report, and that was that the decision has been made that there will be no 4th of July fireworks show. We didn't feel it was appropriate to go out to the community and ask those businesses that have been shut down for $35,000 in sponsorships, which is usually what it runs for a show. One of the things that Dennis's staff has been tasked with, and that is to come up with perhaps a community event, that if we can have one, we have to have it all planned, and then if they say, "Oh yeah, we can do a community event, maybe on a smaller scale, maybe do a community picnic or something somewhere, or maybe we do a community picnic theme at all our parks and just say, hey, go down to your park and, enjoy your 4th of July kind of thing." Those are the types of different kind of plans we need to have in place so that we can move forward with and let the community use the park system. So we're working on that. So no 4th of July this year as far as the pyrotechnic show. I'm sure that there'll be plenty of pyrotechnic shows in the neighborhoods anyway, but it was our show. The council last December or January approved the addition of 10 more fireworks booths in the city. So where we used to have 27, now there's going to be 36. So, and all 36, I think everybody who's asked for a booth has gotten one. That's being handled by fire, obviously. Police are going to be doing an expanded patrol as they did last year for the 4th of July and be out there and try to deal with the unsafe fireworks, the illegal fireworks, and they'll be out doing that. So we're hoping for a good 4th regardless, maybe just a little bit different. And then concerts in the park was the other item that we are planning to do concerts in the park. We're just waiting to see what those might need to look like. There's ways to make things work, and our main goal is just stay within the guidelines and make sure people practice whatever the rule is at that time. Sorry.
Just wanted to add, we should probably talk about Russell Park. Russell Park bids came back, and we had a low bidder, G. Sosa Construction, about $536,000 was a low bid. And so that is going to be awarded in June via the city council and then move to contracts. So we should be we're going to be having a pre-construction meeting in early June. And so hopefully shortly thereafter we'll be under construction with that. So just wanted to give a quick update on that. We did have a pretty large bid spread. High bidder was in the 900s, low bidder was in the 500s.
Wow.
And so, but there was a few other bids that were right in around that 530, 540, 550 range. And so, from what I've heard from Public Works, it's qualified and everything's good to go. So, just wanted to provide that update.
I have a question.
I do too.
Just to keep everything straight, the different projects we have going, so the Veterans Park, the Harvest Glen Park, the Chapel Street, the Russell Park, the pool, done? Okay. Armstrong Park bathroom. Is there anything else?
Enos House. Which plans are submitted?
Yeah, we're in plan check. Yeah.
So,
We're in structural plan check for the house right now, so we hope to pull a permit for that and be able to move on to hire a contractor to go in and do the structural work that needs to be done. Put a new roof on, put windows in, and paint. Those are the 3 things we want to get done this summer. 4 things we want to get done this summer.
fall.
Oh yeah, fall. So we want to get done before it rains. So we want to get those things buttoned up, and then we'll move on to the next step. It's electrical, plumbing, HVAC, that kind of stuff that needs to be done. Lots of things to do.
So the pool is complete. That's,
Yeah, do you want to talk real quick about that? Just sure.
In the previous one?
Yeah, his previous life.
Yeah, the pool was completed late April. The health department was out the last week of April. They did their plan checks, that everything is looking good. We had some issues with grading, which the Virginia Graham Baker Act was one of the issues we had, which extended the length of the project, and then also some concrete deck work that had to be done. The concrete was deeper or thicker than they thought, so those were a couple issues we had along the way, but it's up and running, it's looking good, and we're ready to open it at some point when the economy will allow us to do so.
thank you.
I think that's it from our perspective, Madam Chair.
Official business conducted by a member. Anybody have anything that they want to share?
I do. Is this on? Yeah, it is. March 10th, the Parks Conference at the Long Beach Convention Center. It was kind of like playing musical chairs because, before you go to a conference, you pick all your things you're going to do and you do like, my A list and then the next one. But so you go and you go to your chosen little session and, those people didn't come because of the virus. It was, like Alex said, it literally closed down Thursday afternoon and it was supposed to go through Friday. So it literally was like playing musical chairs. You'd go and you'd say, okay, well, I wonder what's next door. And that would be, people falling out of the room because it was so packed. And so you just would go and see which one you could fit into. So I went to a lot of strange ones, but they were all really, things I wouldn't normally do, but they were all really great. They were great offerings this year. But anyway, so I did that, and I have a whole thing, but I don't need to go into it of what I did see. April 20, at the conference as well, we had a meeting with the Goleta commissioner, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the woman's name that.
Joanne
And
Plummer.
that was really great to meet with them, and we're actually planning on having something with that commission come, when we can, probably this summer or later, but to have like a connection with them, it would be really great, and get all the commissioners, but that's in the works. April 29th, we had a Zoom meeting of the Arts Committee, and it was pretty good. April 30th, the Quimby appraisal discussion. And I think that's about it. It's been a slow few months.
That didn't more than I did. Anybody else?
We attended the April 29th Zoom meeting with the Arts Master Plan, and I think we'll be getting an updated version out to everybody probably in the next commission meeting. And that'll go before council.
No, they want you all to do it, so we'll be happy to do it that way.
I don't remember to be honest with you, where I am, so I don't know if I talked about them at the last meeting, because I know we had a couple of downtown revitalization meetings. We had 2, I think, in January, and they were about the Chapel Street project and 2 developments going up, one being the corner of Main and Broadway. So that one got moved from a 4-story to a 3-story building, and then the one where the car wash was on Chapel, they showed us a concept plan for that, which is a 3-story apartment building. And then we had a developer come in with the concept plan for some multi-use space in front of Fayaz in the parking lot along Broadway. So making retail and then studio and apartments right along Broadway, kind of corner where the church is and then where downtown Fridays is. So looking at that, it's one of the first concepts that's come through to use the parking spaces as such. And so we're hoping that because they kind of paid the money to present something physical, that other developers will be interested and start presenting ideas that could utilize the parking lots around the downtown space. So there was a lengthy conversation around that and how possibly streets could be opened around Lincoln area to make it go through. We're making alleys, moving downtown Fridays somewhere else in the parking area. So all of that was discussed, and I think it was January, I apologize. And then we had a play meeting, just talking about our funding in the current state. And that was before all of this started happening. So I know we're reevaluating some of our funds and what we're gonna need to do as a board and recruiting members actively.
Just a comment. I received some public comments about an event called Fiesta with Fido. Some of you may have seen the flyer that came out that had a chihuahua on it. It's titled Fiesta with Fido. And apparently some of this community members objected to. They thought it was a little on the racist side. I spoke with Alex, and he mentioned that he's going to bring it up within the staff and come up with some solutions. So I'm okay with that, but I just thought that I should bring it up. And I think it's necessary for the staff to discuss that and maybe have a cultural competency workshop or something to that effect to make sure, if you're not sure if something is considered racist, because I'm Asian. I know a lot of times people call me an Oriental guy or something like that. I'm not a piece of furniture or a rug. So I think it's important. So I just want to bring that up, and I'm hoping that you can take care of that. Thank you, Alex.
I will. I'll put that in the record for you. Thank you.
I'd like to just reiterate what Commissioner Lee said, that I received quite a bit of feedback on that particular event as well, and I agree that a workshop for cultural competency is something that we could all use as commissioners, but also at a staff level. In my 7 years on the commission, I haven't heard of anything like this happening, and I know for sure I haven't been through anything as a commissioner, so I'd really like to look into that and see what possibilities are out there for us. But also I think that we probably need a systematic process for approval of marketing and publicity before it reaches the public, just to make sure that we don't cross that line again, and make sure that we are being as sensitive and professional as possible, because even though many things are done in levity and in the best intentions possible, we need to make sure that we don't cross that line. And so I'd like to see, where we can make that process a little bit more streamlined and apparent to not only the commission but the public, just to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So if when that has happened on a staff level, if we could have that on the agenda so that we can explore it as a commission, that's something that I would really like to see.
Anything else? Community interest items. Okay, then we'll adjourn this meeting, and the next meeting will be June 9th. Same time.
Same place?
Same place.
Everybody was all right with us that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I probably will not be here the next couple of months.
Where are you gonna be?
No.
When are you,
July.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pregnant.
Congratulations.
Don't go